Well, let's stick with that report, and Anglicare's Executive Director Kasy Chambers joins us from Canberra. Good morning. Thank you very much for your time. Now, tell us just how affordable or unaffordable is it for Australians on low incomes or on public benefits?
Well, I think even we were surprised at how unaffordable it actually is. So we surveyed over 65,500 properties 2 weekends ago on the internet and in newspapers, and we found virtually none that were affordable for people living on government benefits and on the minimum wage. So virtually nothing across our capital cities, and it wasn't that different a story in regional areas like Geelong and Newcastle, or even some of the rural areas either.
So how accurate and or representative is this? I guess you do call it a snapshot and it's just taken over the one weekend, because you're just looking at rental ads, aren't you?
That's right. I mean, one of the things that we find is that our clients generally look to rental areas. People who are homeless, we need good rental for them to exit homelessness programs, but also a lot of people, and this shows that people on a minimum wage are not really going to be able to buy into a property when they can virtually not get into rental properties. So we do call it a snapshot. What we do is we look at every rental property and then we test it against benefits and against the minimum wage. We take into account things like Commonwealth rental assistance, but we apply a measure of 30%. So people spending more than 30% of their income on a low income, we say that that's on affordability. So it's a snapshot. We say that it tells a story that sits behind it about unaffordability, about the issues people have when you have got housing that's difficult. It's difficult to get work, it's difficult to connect to community, and it means that people are living in unaffordable housing, making very difficult decisions about what not to buy and not to pay so that we can pay the rent.
Your report's about the private rental market. A lot of the people that you're talking about would of course be looking to state housing for accommodation. That's just as difficult, isn't it?
Well, that's right. There really is a very short supply of public housing or of social housing. So a large percentage, over 90% of the Australian rental market is provided through the private sector. So hence why we take this snapshot once a year. We're getting bigger every year. This year we covered more properties and more areas. But it is a very important segment of the housing market. And it's a segment that usually gets missed out when we talk about housing affordability.
So what do you want the government response to be? Because there's obviously a divide between what the federal government can do based on the fact that public housing usually is provided by state governments.
That's right. I mean, we're saying that this is a national priority. It's a national issue. It has to take national action, and we're calling upon all sectors. The other thing with housing, of course, is it's not an instant fix. You can't build houses overnight. So we're actually calling to governments of today, but also well into the future. We've seen some substantial investment in the last number of years, but we need to keep that up. Clearly there is an issue about inadequacy of benefits. It's clearly not enough. Government benefits are not enough for people to get into housing. That's a short-term issue, or could be. But we are also looking at taxation issues. We're looking to unlock the trillions of dollars in superannuation. We're looking at supply issues around supply not fitting the demand of certain household types. And of course we're looking to support issues and services for those who are living in unaffordable housing, or indeed not living in housing at all, and couch surfing or spare bed hopping or trying out their friends' patients or living in cars or motels.
Let's just talk about the New Start allowance for a moment. Anglicare wants the New Start allowance increased, as does ACOS in the budget which is handed down next week. How confident are you that that might happen, given the tough talk the government has put out in regards to maintaining its promise of a budget surplus and the fact that some benefits will be cut?
Look, we're probably not confident. We're not the only ones who are calling for an increase in benefits, and even the welfare sector isn't alone in calling for those increases. Interestingly, we did some research a couple of months ago which showed that 80% of Australians polled would actually like to see government benefits either cover the cost of living or attached to the average wage. And the vast majority of people polled actually thought they should be set by an independent body, not by the government of the day. Only 3% thought that they should be set in order to balance the budget. So I think there is a community standard now which is calling for these benefits to be increased. And I think most people don't actually realise how low these are.
Kasy Chambers, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Karina.